Were the Bengals treating the NFL draft like a casino? We are going to talk about the good and the bad. Their first pick of the 2025 NFL draft is Shemar Stewart. We are diving in, and as always, you know me, I'm never going to hold back on you. This is Deep in the Stripes. This is the sickest Bengals podcast around. Let's get into it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse.
From 31 yards, McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl. They did it. They beat Mahomes at home. Wow, Joe Burrow. No way.
The sickest Cincinnati Bengals podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Okay, yes. If you woke up this morning and you feel like you are just baffled by who the Cincinnati Bengals chose at 17th overall in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft, I get it. I hear you. I hear your concerns. I mean, most of you, I asked you on Instagram, I asked you on our Twitter account what you thought, and overall, y'all aren't happy. You guys are not thrilled with this pick. And I think a lot of that stems from his lack of production in college. 31 tackles, 1.5 sacks. The pressure rate looked really good. 39 pressures last season. I don't really know how to look at the missed tackles because the percentage on missed tackles was at like 26.9. And instantly when I saw that, I was like, oh, I don't know about that one. That because the Bengals, as you know, if you even watched one single half of football in 2024 with the Cincinnati Bengals, you know that one of their glaring issues was tackling, being able to finish, being able to wrap guys up, and being able to stop the ball, stop the run, stop the pass. They couldn't do any of it. So you know that they already had trouble there. And then when you see a guy with that missed tackle percentage, it worries you. But then Al Golden made me feel a little bit better when he spoke, because then he was just kind of like, you know what? He was doing a lot of things outside of what he needed to do. So he was in positions that he didn't necessarily need to be in. The good news here, we're going to go back and forth because there's a lot of good news with this pick, in my opinion, and there are concerns which are valid with this pick, in my opinion. I think the good news here is that you have Jerry Montgomery as your defensive line coach, and you also have Al Golden as your defensive coordinator. Let me tell you, I would be raging pissed if the Cincinnati Bengals made this pick with Lou Anarumo as the defensive coordinator. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to throw shade, but I'm just saying I think that Lou Anarumo's system was a little too complicated for some of the younger guys coming in. I don't think it was as digestible for a lot of players coming in, whereas Al Golden seems to have a track record of connecting well with young players and speaking a language in which they understand and building trust with them and putting them in positions where they know that they can be successful and putting them in positions where they can feel confident just doing their jobs. Because remember, Paul Gunther used to say this all the time. If each guy will just do exactly what is in his job description, what we want him to do, and he's not worrying about another guy's job, that's when this defense starts humming. So I feel like this is a kind of a similar situation, similar way of thinking with Al Golden. If he knows that if these guys will just pay attention to what is on their list, their priority list of things to do in a game and accomplish in a game, and not worry about the linebackers. You're not going to worry about the safeties. You're not going to worry about the guy next to you on the line if he's going to do what he's supposed to do. That's the expectation. Should have been the expectation the last 3-4 years. So that's the good news. That's what's making me kind of feel okay about this pick. I know I hear a lot of you, like it kind of feels, I'm sure, like the Cincinnati Bengals, they have a lot of holes to fill, and it almost feels as if they're going into a casino with a lot of holes to fill, aka a lot of bills to pay, and they are betting, hoping that they can hit on a bet. Yes, get that. They could come away with a really good hand, a really good position, pay all their bills, and be able to thrive. Or it could be a bust. But then again, isn't that how every single pick in the NFL draft is? That's how I think of it, anyways. Every single pick in the NFL draft, teams are betting on. Do you remember the days of John Ross? He was supposed to add a ton of speed. People were excited when the Cincinnati Bengals drafted John Ross. Look how that worked out. The Bengals were really excited about Cedric Ogbuehi when they drafted him and Jake Fisher when they drafted him in the same year. How did those two guys work out? Didn't work out great. The Bengals, I remember with Cedric Ogbuehi, they felt like they got a deal on him. And they were going to be able to develop him into this vicious offensive lineman that was going to really bolster their offensive line. And that just did not pan out. And that happens a lot, unfortunately, in the NFL. I mean, heck, even Shemar Chase. Hold on. Don't start raging at me. Even Shemar Chase. Yes, he was super productive in 2019, winning that championship. I believe he had almost 1,800 receiving yards and 20 touchdowns, but then he takes a year off. Yes, he's focusing on the NFL and the draft process and all of that stuff, but he still was away from meaningful football for a year before he was drafted. I saw that as a risk back then. I see every single guy taken in the NFL as a risk. This is also something that I look at as like when they took him, I was like, holy pressure. Imagine the pressure on Jerry Montgomery and Al Golden, and really Al Golden's entire staff, let's be honest. They have 2 months to figure out the tackling issues and fix those before the 2025 season begins. 2 months. Not a very long time. While we are all getting ready for, barbecues and vacations and summer fun, boating, no. The staff has their head down. They are trying to figure out how to bring the best out of the players that they have and will have on their roster. Shemar Stewart. When I was watching his tape, I noticed that he was super explosive. He seemed to, obviously there were highlights, yes, but it seemed like he was kind of making the guys' jobs around him a little bit easier. That's at least what I took away from that. Yes, he needs to finish better. And I think he needs more tools in his tool belt. And I think Jerry Montgomery can help him with that. And there's a lot of pressure on Jerry Montgomery to transform Shemar Stewart into a vicious assassin in 2025. I do like the fact that they are bringing him in to a room of guys who is already competing, already there trying to compete for a starting spot. It also tells me that the Bengals believe that Trey Hendrickson will be with them in 2025. Because if he's not, you've got, and I like Malby, you've got Miles Murphy on one end, and then you got a rookie on the other. That wouldn't be good. I don't know how I feel about that. I may feel differently in July. September or July, I might feel differently. I don't know. A lot of work to be done. A lot of competition. I feel like the NFL is great because you very quickly find out who thrives under pressure and who caves. And based on what I've heard and read about Shemar Stewart, it seems like he would be a guy who thrives under pressure. I watched his interview also with, it was with Kay Adams before the draft kicked off. And he seemed like a thoughtful, smart, respectful kind of dude. He seemed like I think maybe she was starting to get annoyed because he takes a second to answer questions. He's actually listening to the question. So he's listening, he's thinking about his answer, and then he gives his answer. And if you're a good listener, I think, to me, I feel like you have more potential to be a faster learner. If you can listen well, you can typically learn well, in my opinion. He seems like he is a good listener. And I hope he's a really fast learner, because the Bengals could use somebody who is, you're going to hear this a lot, disruptive on the defensive line. All they had really was Trey Hendrickson last season. And when you only have one guy applying real serious pressure, well, BJ Hill in the middle was doing a really good job of that too. But on the edge, if you only have one guy applying that pressure, it makes the linebackers' jobs just a little bit harder. It makes the safeties and the cornerbacks' jobs just a little bit harder. They need to play more cohesive football on the defensive side. They need to be like light years better than they were in 2024. 2024 was probably the most frustrating year of football that I think I've ever watched in my entire career. They cannot have another year where their quarterback is producing at a top level and they have a triple crown receiver and they don't make the playoffs. It was unacceptable last year. And I think jobs might be on the line if that happens again, a second year in a row, third year in a row, not making the playoffs. Now, to make you guys feel just a little bit better, especially if you are one of the people who couldn't sleep last night, you are fuming, you were in my DMs, you were in my mentions saying this is the worst pick ever, what are we doing? Our front office is so dumb, blah, blah, blah. Hear you. This could make you feel a little bit better, okay? Like, I'm not trying to shove sunshine up your behind. I'm truly not. But I do want to give you an example of a guy who was not super productive in college and then was drafted around the same area as Shemar Stewart was. We're going to go all the way back to 15 years ago. Jason Pierre-Paul, South Florida. 2009, he only had 45 combined tackles, okay? And I think he had 6.5 sacks for them. The Giants draft him in 2010, 15th overall. His rookie year in 2010, he had 4.5 sacks for them. But then you look at his second year in the NFL, and his sack production jumps up to 16.5. I don't know. Shemar Stewart is pretty similar to JPP's size. 6'5", 270, 270, 280. Athletic freak. Can he put it together? Can he learn the language quick enough? Can he understand what is being asked of him quickly enough? Can Myles Murphy take another step under Jerry Montgomery and Al Golden? There's a lot of potential here. Yes, there's a lot of risk, but there's also a ton of potential. And I know there are also a lot of people saying like they don't need a project right now. And yeah, in a way, I kind of agree with you. There were a lot of holes in the defense, or they wouldn't be sitting in a position where they're in Cancun while other teams are competing for Lombardi. But I don't even know where I was going with that. There's a lot of holes to fill. I'm back. There's a lot of holes to fill. And it felt a little bit like a luxury pick, right? Because it's like you need immediate starters. You need someone who's going to make an immediate impact. You don't necessarily want a project or someone that you are needing to develop. But then you have to go inside of the Bengals' mind. And you heard Duke Tobin earlier before the draft say they did not need immediate starters. They didn't feel like they needed that right away. I disagree. But okay, that's their mindset. Maybe they are banking on his ability to get together quickly. I find it odd that they did not meet with him. I was encouraged, however, that Al Golden made sure to call his coach and get like feedback from him. A lot of people are wondering why the Bengals wouldn't take Mike Green when he was available. But let's just be clear about this. Mike Green, though he says that the SA allegations against him are untrue, there are allegations out there against him, I believe from high school and then Virginia, which from what I understand, the allegations in Virginia were the biggest catalyst for him transferring to Marshall. So while he was someone who had more production last year at Marshall, it's also a huge risk to take someone who has character issues or allegations against them, unnecessary drama associated with them. Listen, these teams only have 2 months to get their teams ready for 2025. Dealing with drama and distractions, they don't have time for it. So I understand why they would pass on Mike Green, even if he is innocent. I don't know. Even if he is innocent, you still got to deal with what's associated with him off the field. So I get that. And they're always, Zach Taylor is always saying that they are looking at the character of a guy. They really want to bring in guys of high character, guys of good work ethic, guys that care about their teammates and are good team players, and they're not selfish and only thinking about themselves. They don't want that in that locker room. So I get it. I'm fine with that. We could be in a position where we are seeing Shemar Stewart almost resemble Myles Garrett in a way down the line. I would like it to be immediate. I think that would be like the perfect scenario for the Cincinnati Bengals. If it's immediate and he is coming out ready to, take names and make a quarterback's life a living hell, especially in the AFC North in 2025. He's got a lot to prove. But it seemed to me in the interviews that I've watched and how I've listened to people speak about him that he is kind of like the guy who he kind of reminds me of having like a personality almost like Joe Burrow in a way. Like he's kind of like quiet, right? And he mentioned a few times in different interviews that he was doubted a lot and that people just didn't believe in him. And now this is where he is. Joe Burrow was doubted a lot. He was. Didn't get the opportunities to start at Ohio State. I don't know. Sometimes guys that have been through something like that, where they know that they are talented and they know that they can do certain things, but there's not enough people around them that believe in them. They have like a different type of edge to them. So we'll see. I am optimistic. I am very interested to see how training camp shapes up. I think this might be one of the most interesting training camps for the Cincinnati Bengals in recent memory. And I've said numerous times leading up, this is one of the most important drafts for the Cincinnati Bengals to get right. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, healthy. You can't miss the playoffs again. You got to make it happen. The slow starts cannot happen. You all know that. We know that. That's not a secret. Okay? The pressure's on. And it's almost like this coaching staff loves pressure or something, because they just keep adding it on to themselves in a way. We will see. I want to hear what your comments are. Did I even make you feel better at all? I feel like this is a therapy session for some of our fans who are watching this right now. Hopefully you feel a little bit better. The sack stat, I'm going to have to say, is not the only stat that matters. It's not. I want to see a guy who is constantly around the football, is constantly disrupting plays, is constantly torturing the quarterback and the offensive lineman. I really, really, really liked the fact that Al Golden last night said that his guys would complain about having to deal with Shemar Stewart. That's a good sign. will NFL caliber talent complain about Shemar Stewart in 2025? We will see. I'll see you next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.